Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second lecture on Introduction to Data Science. Today's topic is Python review. We will start with list comprehensions. A list comprehension is actually an elegant way to create a list from an already existing list. So to understand how we do that, let's take this example. Let's first hard code a list. Here we are hard coding the list L. So we insert these numbers here, comma separated between these two brackets. And that's it. So we created this list L. As we can see here, when we print the type is list. So whenever you write a variable equal and you put values between comma separated values between two brackets, you are creating a list. As we can see here, the type is list. This is the first list. Now let's assume we want to create another list where every element in the new list is nothing but the square of the corresponding element in the already existing list we have, the one we created here. One way is to hard code it as we did here, okay? But actually, list comprehension or list comprehensions provide like a concise way to do it, okay? A more efficient way to do it, as it's shown here, okay? We can actually, with this line, okay, if we replace numbers here with L, okay, then we are actually creating a new list by taking the square of every element in the original list, okay? So here in this line, what we are doing, we are actually defining a range. So we're passing the starting point and the ending point of a range. The starting point will be inclusive and the end point will not be inclusive. So this will go from 1 all the way to 50. If we don't pass the starting point, then the default starting point is 0. So we are defining a range, okay? And then from that range, we are creating a list. So we are passing that range as an input to the list, the built-in function list in Python. And now we are casting that range as a list. Now it became a list. When we print out the type after this function, then the type of numbers is a list. Okay, now we want to create another list. We call it square, where each element is nothing but the square of the corresponding element in the original list numbers. So this is the way we do it. It's very concise, one line. So I iterate over all elements in numbers and we just square them. So that's it. This is the output, okay? So as we can see here, the range, this is before we cast it as a list. This is the number 0 belong to class range, but after we cast it as a list, after we pass the input to the list function, then the output is a list. Okay, we can actually make the creation more interesting. We can add more things, not just applying a function, but we also can add a condition. For example, here, we are creating another list, and this list is nothing but we iterate over the elements of the original list numbers, okay? But we're not taking all of the elements. We are taking only the even numbers. So it's gonna go over each element in the original list, and if the element if that element is even, then we're gonna square that and append it to the new list. Okay, that's this is the first two lines. Here, what we are doing, we are creating a new list, okay? And the content of this list is pluses and minuses, and these pluses and minuses are defined based on the elements we have in the original list, the list named numbers. So if the number, so we have a condition here. If the number if the number in the original list is even, then we're gonna append plus. Okay, we're gonna have a plus here in the corresponding position in the new list. This is a new list, it's not the original one. Okay, so we're gonna have a plus there, and if it's not even, so if it's odd, then we're gonna have minus. So then this list will be a set of pluses and minuses. And as you can see here, list can take numbers as well as strings. So here we have strings, here we have numbers. This is the first list, square, E square list, and this is PV list. Okay, now we are gonna talk about some properties of a list. So actually here, what we are doing, we are calling the function len. We're passing the list as an input. And by calling the function len, we are retrieving the number of elements in that list. There are 25 numbers in that list. Okay. We can also retrieve the index of a specific value. For example, we are looking for the value 196. So what we are doing here, we are calling the function. So this function index is inside the object. So we're calling e square dot index, and we're passing the value. So then if this value is there, then the outcome will be the index of that value. Now, what happens if that value is not there? Let's pass an arbitrary value. Okay, so this one, for example, we will get an error. Okay, because that value is not in the list. Okay. Now, the outcome of this is like a condition. We are checking that condition. So the outcome, the type of the outcome is a Boolean variable. So it will be true if this condition is satisfied and false otherwise. Let's see, this is true because that value is there in the list. Now, if we replace this with another value, we choose an arbitrary one. Now it's false because that value is not there. Okay. Okay, now we can also call some built-in Python functions, and we pass our lists, and we can actually get an output for those functions. For example, the function max and function min. Here, where the return is a tuple here. We have two values. So we're calling the function max and the function min. So we're passing the list name. So then the return will be, the first value will be the maximum and the second value will be the minimum. Okay. So you don't really need to write a code from scratch to retrieve a max or a min value of a list. You can just call the built-in function max and built-in function min, and you can retrieve the max and the min. Okay, this is like if you swap these, if you change the order, then you will store the min in the max and the max in the min. Okay, so the order is important here. Now we come to another function, the remove function. So if you want to remove a certain value, then we call the function remove. Okay, here the list name dot remove, and we pass the value of that, the value that we want to remove. So what will happen, that value will be removed and all indices will be shifted to the left. Okay. So this is it. So this is before, okay, it was at the 7th position, has index 6, but now the next one here, the one, this used to be next one, it took that position. Okay. And 196 has been removed. Okay. Now, if we want to retrieve the value, the index of 196, we will have an error because it's not there anymore. Okay. Okay. Now we come to another function, which is called enumerate function. This function adds the index component to a list. Okay. So it's useful when you want to iterate over a list, and also iterate over the elements of a list, and also if you want to keep track of the indices. Okay, so let's look at the one use case for enumerate. So let's take this example. So we have a list of strings here. These are fruits. We call this list, we give it a name, fruits, and we pass all elements. So that's fruits. Before we look into the use case, a good use case for enumerate, let's follow what we have here in the cell. Sometimes we go out of the context, but we come back. So here, what we are doing, actually, we are we are using two ways to sort the content of this list. The first way is to use the sort function, the one inside the object, So to make in-place sorting. So what will happen here, the elements of this list will be sorted alphabetically because they are strings. So it will be sorted alphabetically in place. So if I print fruits before and after, then fruits will change. Okay, so we are doing in place sorting. Okay, we're not creating a new list that is a sorted version of the original one. No, we are sorting in place. Okay, now if you want to create another list that is a sorted version of fruits, then we need to call the Python built-in function sorted, and we pass fruits as an input, and we define a new list fruits2. Fruits2 is equal to sorted, and we pass fruits. Then what will happen, fruits will remain the same, and fruits2 will be a sorted version of fruits. Okay, as you can see here, they are sorted alphabetically. Apple is the first. Now, if there are two words where they have the same first letter, then the function will look at the second letter, and so on. So now the elements are sorted alphabetically. Now we come to a use case of enumerate. Okay, so now if we want to iterate over these elements, okay, if you look into this function here, what we are doing actually, because fruits doesn't have indices, it's a list, there are only values, there are no indices. So what we do, if we want to iterate over these elements and we want to use the index as well as the value, then we need to pass this to the function enumerate. Enumerate will add index beside the value, so we will have index and value. Then we can iterate over the index and value. So that is what we are doing here. For I and V in enumerate fruits, if we write for I and V in fruits, then we will have an error because for fruits, there's no index. Okay, there's only value. So now after passing it to enumerate, we can actually iterate over both the index as well as the value. For I and V in enumerate, so we are iterating over each element. So we're retrieving the index and the value of that element. And what we are doing, this part is what is a concatenation of three strings. Okay, the first string is what? We take the index, which is integer. We add 1, so we start from 1, not 0. So we take the index, we add 1, and we cast it as a string. So we convert the outcome of this I plus 1 from being integer to a string, because we cannot concatenate integer number with a string. Okay, so we have to convert it to a string. So this is nothing but the index converted to a string, the index plus 1, of course, because Python starts from 0. So that's why we're adding 1 here. This concatenated with dot and the value. So the first element will be 1.apple. Okay, so as you can see, this is very concise way of doing it. It's in one line. Let me just print it out first, and then I can talk about different ways to do it. So if you look, for example, into this way, okay, if I don't know enumerate, okay, I can still do it, okay. I need like a number of lines here, but I still can't do it. So I can start with I equal to 1, and I define an empty list, and then I iterate over the elements of fruits. And what I do, I append to fruit2, the empty list, I append the concatenation of these three elements, what we explained here, okay? And then I increment the counter by 1, okay? It will give me the same result, okay? Maybe the closest one to what we have here is the last one here, okay? So we are defining an empty list, and then we are iterating over the index and the value after passing fruits to enumerate, because as we said, enumerate adds the index component, so we can iterate over the indices and the values of fruits, and we append the concatenation of these three to fruits. Okay, it will give the same thing. This is just more compressed or concise way to do it. So this is the new list we got. Okay, it's a list of strings. Okay, now we come to another function, which is zip function. This is useful when we want to join two lists Okay. This will the outcome of this will be a collection of tuples. Okay, it's not really list. Okay, it's a collection of tuples, but then we can pass it to the function list, and the outcome will be a list of tuples. So the outcome of zip function is a collection of tuples. Okay, so it's good if you wanna like iterate or loop over two or more lists simultaneously at the same time. Okay, let's take an example. So again, so we have this example here. Here we have fruits is a list of lists. Okay, the list can be a list of strings, can be a list of numbers, and it also can be a list of lists. Okay, so let's work with this list of lists. So actually, yeah, this has nothing to do with the zip yet, but yeah, we're gonna come to how we use zip function, but that's fine. Let's follow what we have here in the cells. So this is a list of lists. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a large list. Okay, we're gonna get rid of the inner lists. Okay, so we're gonna create another list that contains all these elements in just one list, all these strings. So this is the very concise, very compact way to do it. So for y, so we do y for inner list in fruits. So we're going over every inner list, and then we're taking every element for y in inner list. We're taking every element in every inner list. That's our these are the elements of our new list. Okay, that is a very, as I said, very compact way to do it, but you can also do it this way, which is like the way you may think of the first order way of doing this. So simply you start by an empty list, and then you will have two nested loops, because you're gonna go in every inner list, and then you're gonna iterate over the elements of that inner list, and you just append those elements to the empty list. Okay, this printout here inside, so it will print at that iteration how many elements are there. So this is the outcome of this line, but also as we iterate here, like we are appending the elements eventually when we finish, when we are done with looping, we end up having the same list here, the list of strings. Okay, yeah, these are just two different ways to do it. Okay, now okay, so what are we doing here? So we're creating a list. Now we have the list of fruits here. This contains the names of the fruits. Okay, now we are creating another list. Okay, here where the elements of that list is what they are actually the lengths of each string. And by the way, the string itself in Python is a list. So that's why we're calling the function len for v here. We are actually iterating over all elements in all fruits. So we are iterating over these elements. And for every element, we're passing that element to len to extract its length, the number of characters or elements. So because a string is also a list here. And for apple, there are five characters. So the length of this is 5. Okay, so then here we will end up having a new list where those elements are nothing but the number of elements or the number of characters in every one of these strings. Okay, here we call the function remove 10. So we're passing a certain value, and we are removing that value from the string. As you can see, this value has appeared 2 times. Okay, so if we call this function, it will remove the first occurrence only. So the second one will stay there. Okay, if we print out here, what we are doing here, we're printing this len fruits. Okay, so we are printing the elements, and here we are printing its length. Okay, And then we are printing the length of the original one that has the names. There's difference in length here. Okay, so the number of elements in length fruits is equal to 9 because we have removed one element, while the number of elements in this is equal to 10. There are 10 fruits. Okay. Now we're gonna create, think of zip as a middle point between like moving from two lists to creating a dictionary. So the first step is to create a collection of tuples, and then we can use that collection of tuples to create a dictionary where we use the content of the first list to be, we choose them to be the keys, and the content of the elements of the second list as the values. So now, yeah, let me comment this out. We don't need to go. So here, we're creating a new list. Okay, so we're passing all fruits and lin fruits, these two lists, and they are not in the same length. Okay, this one has 9 elements, and this one has 10 elements. Okay, but that's fine. So the Python will not give an error. It just use the minimum of these two lengths. So we will have 9 tuples. Okay, so we're passing these two lists to zip function. The outcome will be a collection of tuples. The first tuple, okay, in the first tuple, the first element will be the fruit apple, and the second element will be the length of that, which is equal to 5. Okay, apple 5, and so on. So up to here, so the outcome of zip function is a collection of tuples. Now we pass that as an input to list function. The outcome will be a list. Okay. Okay, it's a list of tuples. Now it became a list of tuples. This is the first tuple, second tuple, and so on. As you can see here, watermelon, the number of characters is not equal to 4. It's more. But this is happening here because we removed one of the elements in the middle. So they are not really, these are not the corresponding number of number of elements or characters, okay, for watermelon. Okay, now we can iterate over this list, okay, over the elements of this list. And since every element is a tuple, we can access those like the different elements in each tuple, okay, by using the corresponding index. For the first one, the index is 0. For the second one, the index is 1. Okay, so for example, for the first element, K0 is apple, and K1 is 5. Okay, apple 5, banana 6, and so on. Now, if I want to also include the index, I need to pass this list of tuples to enumerate, which will add the index component, and then we can retrieve the index as well as the value, and the value is a tuple. So we can still access the first element and the second element beside the index, and we can print all of them out. So 0, apple 5, 1, banana 6, and so on. Now we come to dictionaries, okay? As I said, in dictionaries, we have keys and values, okay? Let's look how we create a dictionary from lists. So first we have these two lists, okay? The list of fruits and the list of prices. So for the first fruit is apple, and the price per kilogram for apple is 47, and so on. Okay, so here we're going to define a dictionary. Okay, so how are we going to create that dictionary? So we have these two lists. We're going to pass these two lists to zip function. We're going to create a collection of tuples. Okay, for the first tuple, the first element is apple, and the price, the second element is 47. So the fruit and its corresponding price. So if we print this is the dictionary, and this is the elements of a dictionary are inside curly brackets. Okay. Now we're going to iterate over the keys and the values of this dictionary. So we're going to call the function items. So book1.items that will retrieve those items. Okay. the key and value. This is first item, second item, and so on. And for each item, we're gonna print out this string here. This is a formatted string. We pass if before the string. If when we add this if here, then we are telling the Python interpreter that whatever inside these curly brackets should be treated as a Python expression. So if that if is not there, then this will be printed out as a string. So we will have printed out a curly brackets with k inside. But now with this if, so we are like telling the interpreter that this should be taken as Python expressions. So you're gonna print here the what will be printed out is the value of k and the value of v. So then the first printout will be the price of apple is 47 Saudi riyal. Okay, the price of apple is 47 Saudi riyal, and so on. Okay. Now we are creating another dictionary here. Okay, and this is a more interesting one. So we have two lists here. The list of fruits, this has the fruit names, and another list, okay, another list that is what? So we are creating a range that starts from 0 because we're not defining the starting point here. That starts from 0 and goes all the way to the number that is equivalent or equal to the len of fruits. So 0 is inclusive and that number is not inclusive. Okay, so we're gonna go from 0 all the way to how many fruits we have there, -1. Okay, that is the range. Okay, from that range, okay, we pass it to the list function, the Python built-in list function. Now we convert it to a list. Okay, now we have two lists, the fruits and that range. We pass that to zip function. Okay, so zip function will create a collection of tuples from that. So the first tuple will be 0 apple, the second tuple will be 1 banana, and so on. And from these two tuples, we are creating a dictionary by passing the output of zip function as an input to the dictionary function. Now we are creating a dictionary where the keys are the keys are these indices from 0 all the way to whatever the last number, and the values are the fruit names. Okay. Okay, here 0 is the key for the first element, and apple is the value, and so on. Now, what we are doing here, we are actually creating a simple application where a user will input like according to okay, so what we are doing, let me run it so that will okay, even before run. So we are printing out all the keys and the values. Okay, and then we are actually printing this message for the user. Okay, so enter the number corresponding to a fruit to know the price. So for a specific fruit, if the user wants to know the price, he will enter the corresponding number. Okay, that number, the integer number, okay, is gonna be taken, and then we will actually cast it as an integer, because actually whatever number the user is entering, okay, it will be actually taken as a string. Then we need to call the function integer to cast it as an integer. So we convert it from a string to an integer. Okay, so here we are prompting the user to enter. So the input is just waiting, is capturing whatever the user is inputting. Then whatever the user is inputting, that's a string. We pass it to function integer. We convert it to an integer number. Okay, then that integer number is passed to the second dictionary. Remember, for the second dictionary, the keys are these integer indices, and the values are the fruit names. So we are passing that integer number to the second dictionary. So we get the fruit name. Okay, the fruit that the user have selected. Okay, then we pass the fruit to the second dictionary. Why? Because the fruit name in the first dictionary. The fruit name in the first dictionary, the fruit names are the keys. So we pass the fruit name. Okay, so we actually retrieve the corresponding price. Okay, so for second dictionary, okay, the keys are the integer numbers that the user enters. Okay, and the values are the fruit names. So the user will enter a certain number that's corresponding, that we will pass as a key. Here we will retrieve the fruit name. We pass the fruit name to the first dictionary to retrieve the price, and then we print out the price. Okay, after this line, the logic is done. This is just a format, how to print out things. Let me just run it. So let's assume like we enter number 1. Okay, then you have selected banana. The price per kilogram of banana is 27. Banana is retrieved from the second dictionary because we passed the corresponding number. Okay, we entered the corresponding number 1, and the price 47 is retrieved from the first dictionary after passing banana as the key because it's the corresponding value. So this is just like how we print out things. It's not that important, but very quickly. So we define the variable width here. That is the length of this formatted string. Okay, it's equivalent to that. Then we actually go 4 lines, 4 new lines. That's why you see the space here. Okay, and then we print a number of stars that is equal to the width, the value of width. This stars here you see, and then here we also printing this. So this just to tell like it's a left aligned. So we start from here. Okay, if we do it right aligned, then this is what you will see here. Okay, so it's a right aligned. Okay, and this here is just to tell how many. Okay, let me just run it again. Okay, so how many white spaces we have before the last star here we add. So this is -1, so it's at the end. So if we do, for example, -4, then as you can see, there are only 4 spaces. This has moved to the left. If we go like a large number, then it will just stop at the, okay, so, okay, there's an error. Okay, we cannot go larger than the, okay, let's do 10, for example. Okay, 1. So it stops here. It doesn't go, okay, that's it. So after the last printed character, okay? And then we are printing, again, we are printing here the price, and then we are printing again stars below. That's it. It's, as I said, it's a format how to show the output, okay? So these are important things to know about dictionaries. So duplicate keys are not allowed. We cannot have 2 values with the same key value, okay, with the same key. That's not possible. Okay, so every key can appear only once in the dictionary. Also, keys can be of any type. As we can see here, we had keys integer of type integer. We had keys of type string. So they can be any type, but they are immutable. So we cannot change their values. Okay, the key itself, we cannot change the key. Okay, reassigning a new value to an existing key will override the previous value. So we can change the value, but we cannot change the key. Okay, so we stop here for today and see you in the next lecture, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.